Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Sound City Plus here in the fantastic British music experience. My name's Craig Pennington. I'm the publisher and founder, I suppose, of Bido Lito magazine, which is a music magazine we've been putting out in Liverpool every month for the last 8 years. And I'm thrilled to have a fantastic panel of guests here joining me today in this beautiful building. Just by way of introduction, I want to try and set this panel in a little bit of context. So Future Music City really is the culmination of an ongoing debate which has been happening in Liverpool over the last year or so as to how we can really embrace and utilise music and its transformational potential opportunity to really think about how we can create a new kind of place for Liverpool in the world. How music kind of impacts on every aspect of kind of city and civic life, how we see ourselves internally within the city and how the city is positioned internationally, and the opportunities that presents for the people who live and work here, and the way that we can really utilise that transformational power to create a new kind of future for Liverpool. I'll let each of our panellists introduce themselves shortly, but just as a way of introduction, on the 7th of March, our Metro Mayor, Steve Rotheram, announced an ambition to take forward music as an essential thread of our fourth industrial revolution economy, and observe that music's integral to who we are, so we need to ensure that it's a fundamental component of what we will be in the future. This comes at a challenging time for music in Liverpool. There's been a series of reports which have been published over the last 12 months. The Liverpool edition of the UK Live Music Census, which was led by Matt Flynn, who's in the building when he was at LIPA, is now at Liverpool University. Liverpool City Council commissioned BOP to produce a report into the music strategy that could be embraced by the city. At Bido Lito, we worked with Liverpool John Moores University to produce a report called Liverpool Music City. A lot of people in this room will have been part of the process where we went out and spoke to people who are involved in the music community in Liverpool and get your opinions and your ideas as to how we can do music better. I'm really kind of embrace that transformational opportunity. And then UK Music, pleased to say Natalie from UK Music is with us today, but they put out a report a couple of months back looking at the contribution of music tourism to the wider city region. The idea of a music board, which Steve launched, mirrors the structure which is in place in London and has been in London, successfully in place in London for the last couple of years, chaired by Amy LeMay. If you look at the work that board's done and how instrumental they've been around the live music rescue plan in London, the abolition of Form 696 and its horrendously negative kind of impacts that piece of legislation was having, and their work around agent of change, we can see how a body such as a music board can potentially be really interesting and transformational. So before I ask our guests just to introduce themselves, this panel's called Future Music City. We're in a building here where we're surrounded by our fabulous music past and our fabulous music heritage. The nostalgia caveat is getting left at the door. This panel is about the future. It's about what Liverpool might be and could be. Though we are in awe of our past, this is about our future. I will try and save 5 minutes at the end for people to ask some questions, and there's a round table for people who want to have a conversation directly with the panelists at the end. But firstly, I'd like to ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves. Maybe we start with Steve.
There you go. My name's Steve Rotherham, and in May last year, I was elected as the first ever Metro Mayor of the Liverpool City region. And we've started to pull together a load of different strategies in different areas, and as part of the cultural strategy, there is a music strategy that falls from that. It's really important to us as a city region, and you'll obviously hear of all the economic indicators where we think we can get improvements and squeeze a little bit more growth from. But really, as you said, to our heritage, Craig, it's immensely important. It's why our visitor economy is doing so well. Music alongside a certain football team who's doing quite well at the moment. But them sort of things are the opportunity really for us to try to exploit.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amy LeMay. I am the Night Tsar of London, and I was appointed by the mayor, Sadiq Khan, 18 months ago, and tasked with transforming London into a truly diverse, sustainable, and safe city 24 hours a day. But I should say 24 hours at night, because my role, everything that I do, is very much focused on the hours between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. And as you know, music and nighttime entertainment is a huge part of that. Part of my role is chairing the London Music Board, and I also chair the Borough Champions Network, which means that we're able to link up the great work that we're doing on the London Music Board with across all of the 32 boroughs in London, plus the City of London. So we see ourselves on the London Music Board as a sort of two hands reaching from the grassroots on one end through to government on the other end, and being able to influence strategically in that way.
Brilliant, thanks, Amy.
Hello, I'm Natalie Williams. I'm the head of research for UK Music. We're an organisation that is a membership organisation that consists of 10 members that represent all different parts of the music industry, but on a national level. So part of our membership consists of PRS for Music, the Musicians Union, the Featured Artists Coalition. There's so many more acronyms, but I'm not going to go through all of them. But we are here to be the voice between the industry and central government. And with the introduction now of the regional mayor's offices that are taking place and more elections taking place all over the country, our goal and remit is to ensure that music is at the forefront of many of those cities, to ensure exactly what's taken place in London and the successes that we have there can be replicated across many cities across the nation.
Great. Hi. Hi, my name's Youssef. I'm a DJ of 20 years experience touring the world, playing in the world's best clubs and festivals. I also produce, where I release on many of the world's best underground record labels, which I have been doing for 15, 20 years too. I run circus events with my partners and my small team in Liverpool, which is a very successful event in the city, which also does events in London, Barcelona, New York, and we did a global tour last year. From the events, we also run circus recordings, which champions a lot of major names like Carl Cox and Green Velvet, but also gives an opportunity to completely unknowns from sending me SoundCloud links, very much so based in Liverpool in terms of looking after and developing new artists. I also have a radio show which has 20 million listeners a month, and lately I'm now involved with Dolby for their new 3D surround sound system.
Fantastic, brilliant. So a brilliant panel, esteemed guests, and the perfect group of people to take this conversation forward. First off, I just want to ask a couple of questions kind of directed to each of you, if I may. Firstly, Natalie, the idea of a music board, and a music board as kind of as that kind of key agent for bringing about the kind of transformational change that we can see music can achieve. What do you think are the key kind of aspects underpinning kind of the music board as an idea? Like for people in the room who it might be a relatively new concept for, what is a music board? How does it work? Give us a little bit of background, really.
Effectively, it's a collection of people who are expertise in their field within the music industry, but also have connections with the community, understanding what the actual goals are for those communities to become together as a collective. And the idea is that music board will be pulled together, come with a list of objectives to make change within what that region is, whether it be a particular city or, in this case, what we're doing for Liverpool, for a city region for all the different local authorities. So the goal is not just to come together and just set up another office, it's to ensure that change can be conducted, whether it be for policy change, whether it's been supporting that community for any issues that arise, whether it's to try and get legislation through, or to be support with regards to anything that is involved in planning.
So that link between the grassroots kind of like activism, people who are involved in running venues, putting on shows, running rehearsal studios, the infrastructure around music in a city, that having that as a key link that works right the way through the board is kind of key to their development?
Exactly. So, that board needs to represent what's going on within that city and whatever region they're representing to ensure that whatever they want to do to move forward is the right thing for what's specific for that region.
So thinking about that, Amy, if I might, so the London Music Board has been about 2 years in existence, roughly?
Yeah, and so, I think Natalie's point is really important, that whatever city or region is putting together a music board, that it's a format that really suits that particular area and region. So I'm here to talk to you about the London model, and I'm sure Liverpool will have its own model that works. I think the most important thing is to recognize what a brilliant opportunity it is for Liverpool to have this. And it's a really exciting change for the city. And so I thought I'd just tell you a little bit about how our music board works. So the London Music Board originally started as a question that one of the London Assembly members put out and said, what's going on with our grassroots live music venues? Like, they seem to be disappearing. So it was an anecdotal thing. We all might have a feeling that in a city that, places that we love are closing, or, but until you actually dig deep, you might not be able to formulate a proper picture and, as a result, an answer of how to solve that. So it was a roundtable that led to a task force, which was a mix of industry, venues, and the Greater London Authority. And then this group wrote the first rescue plan for grassroots live music venues, along with the Music Venues Trust and the Musicians Union. So this was an independent report, and it was really important that we have buy-in from the industry and from the artists at every level. This report changed everything, because the mayor, or the mayor-elect, as he was then, Sadiq Khan, really understands the importance of music and culture to a city. He put this in his manifesto, which included a promise to bring in agent of change and to champion and promote grassroots venues, formalizing the London Music Board and appointing a night czar. So here I am. And I was, as I said, I was appointed 18 months ago, and I do chair the London Music Board. Since I have started chairing it, it has trebled in size, and the reason for this is diversity, because the diversity is the driving factor behind this. We need a London Music Board that looks like London. And that means, echoing what we were hearing this morning from Key Change, equal gender representation, a very strong Black minority ethnic representation, class representation, and also everyone from chief executives to venues to artists to the unions, management, promoters, DJs, music educators, charities, buskers. We really need a board that truly reflects what the music experience is in London. We meet quarterly with additional working groups and roundtables to help us drill deeper into the issues that are really important for us. So, for example, you mentioned Form 696. This is something that the mayor, Sadiq Khan, and I are incredibly proud of, that we were able to work alongside the Metropolitan Police to call for an inquiry into Form 696. This is a risk assessment form that some feel was used in a racist way to prevent Black and minority ethnic artists, promoters, and DJs from performing in particular venues. I led that with the mayor and the Metropolitan Police. The Metropolitan Police came back and said, this is not fit for purpose. We are abolishing it. Form 696 does not exist anymore. And that is something that very tangible that has made a huge difference to our city, not just on the ground, but also the kind of message that we want to send out, that London is open, that we are diverse, we are a diverse city, and our music industry reflects that diversity at every single level. I could go on and talk about other things, but I also want to make sure that our other panelists get a chance to speak. It's obviously something I feel hugely passionate about, and that's why it's so exciting for me to be here and to share this with you, and to be able to hear from Steve as well about the plans for Liverpool.
Absolutely. I think, I mean, you mentioned there the strong support from Sadiq Khan and the way that he kind of understood and embraced the idea around the power of music and the message that can send. A strong Labour mayor. Steve, we've got a strong Labour mayor in this part of the world. I mean, what do you share that vision? Is that the vision that you can that chimes with yourself?
I think all the most successful sectors have one voice, whether that's construction or the arts or whatever it might be. And so in our area, for instance, we've had a Liverpool film office, and that is proven that when you do get those industry voices who all speak together, who all act together, who lobby together at times, because politicians need sometimes to be cajoled into doing things, then there's power in that, there's worth in that. So a Liverpool City Region Music Board is the obvious next step for us. We do have to start acting as a city region. Of course, Liverpool is the cultural epicentre of the city region, we understand that, but it's not the only part in the 1.5 million people in 6 districts that I represent that has an indigenous cultural scene, and certainly a music scene. So it's about celebrating the diversity that we have throughout the districts, and really giving that a platform to start to look to see whether we can work together to get those synergies, and certainly some of the pots of money, it has to be said, that come from that, often from Westminster.
I just wanted to say, when there is a political will to see this change and to see it happen, amazing things can be achieved. So this is why I think Liverpool is at such a crucial point in its future, looking forward to its music future, because you have the political will to make that happen. And that's hugely important. You can't underestimate that.
Absolutely, and that hasn't always been the case. So that's a refreshing change. Just picking up something on that point. So 2.5 years ago, Liverpool was named a UNESCO City of Music. Steve, do you think up to this point we've really missed out on the opportunities that present?
Maybe not missed out, but we haven't fully exploited it, have we? We need to capitalise on these opportunities. And I was part of where Paul Denoyer it was, and Kev Mack, who now runs this place, probably 10 years ago when we were talking about UNESCO status. And it's taken a long time to come to fruition. And I don't believe that you should just collect titles. You have to do something with them. So it's great to have UNESCO recognition, but so what? And I think this next bit is the so what. Getting our own act together, making certain that we know what the ask is, because you'll find out, because of the diversity of the music industry, many people will believe they are the voice, the unique voice of what happens in that industry. It's not. It needs to be a collective encounter. It needs for people to sometimes give a little. They're not going to get everything that they want, but as long as things are going in the general direction, I think you're starting to make progress. And look, if nothing else, focusing and having that political buy-in to a process, even though sometimes it will be a long process and it'll be frustrating, and I'm an impatient bee, like many people, so it won't happen as quickly as many want it to happen. But you have to start somewhere, and we are a new organisation, if you like, a new authority, a combined authority. The likes of other areas, London have had 18 years of mayoral rule, if you like. We've only come together in the last 11, 12 months. So we've got a long way to go, but it is at last now a focus and an emphasis on a market, And that's what we have to look at it as, that we haven't fully exploited in the recent past.
And also, probably just to add to that, that it's not a case of, Liverpool City has its own successes, and music is totally integral to its history and everything that goes on there. And it's not a case of dividing what that pie is; it's making the cake bigger, and just ensuring that the local authorities that are around that, the Wirral, St Helens, and all the others, are being included in what's going on, and just expanding that, because the potential, all the reports that have come out over the past 12 months have proved that it's there.
I mean, that's something that's been consistent, across with each of those 4 reports that I mentioned. All of them have highlighted how important music is to Liverpool, what the opportunity is, but have been pretty consistent in the challenges that they've identified as well.
Craig, just before you go off that, can I just say that I think we've had enough reports now, enough of strategy, and we actually need to start delivering now, because we'll lose people. If what we say out of the music board is that we need another look at what the industry needs, and we need a strategy or a report, I think people will throw themselves in the Mersey. So we actually need a delivery plan now.
So on that, because it's a couple of months since you announced that the music board was going to be formed, and that was going to be the vehicle that was going to take this forward. Where are we up to in terms of the next steps and the next phase on the journey towards that?
So the first thing that we've had to do is agree a mechanism, because the board itself needs to reflect exactly what was said with Amy in London. It needs to reflect what our needs are in our area. We can't just replicate what somebody else has done because we think that's a good model. We need to develop our own. So we need people in each of those individual sectors, and you know how wide that might be in the music industry. We can't include everyone, because otherwise you'll have a music board of 150 people and nothing will ever get done. So we need to get a core group, and then from that we'll have perhaps subgroups which will look specifically at issues. Say, for instance, about, like, we've got a night czar next to us. I've never sat next to a czar, or a czarina, so I feel very privileged. But we need to be thinking about maybe the nighttime economy in our area, or venues, or the stuff that happens behind the scenes, the stuff that Sound City and others are very good at. But pick off the bits where we can get wins. I think that's what people... And then once you start doing that and people see that it's a worthy organisation, then it'll get the further backing. So at the moment, trying to pull it down to what we need as a core group, deciding on how we have that representation, because it shouldn't just be picked by me. I think that it needs to be, considered by a wider group. And then when we've done that, I think it's then moving on to the next stage, the delivery stage. Just
picking up on that, and I'll broaden this out in a second, but specifically in relation to that idea of diversity, of inclusivity, of making sure that this mechanism represents everyone, from your independent promoter through to your arena operator. The board in London has a mechanism through which you achieve that. How do you do that?
It's called me.
Cool. Can we have you?
No, it's called like actually having having a mayor that understands the importance of diversity. So this is something that isn't unique to the London Music Board. This is something that we're implementing across all of City Hall in London. So, when the mayor says we need everything that we do at City Hall to look more like London. And so we have to make it look like London. And how do you achieve that? Well, I mean, for a start, I'm a woman, so I understand these issues very deeply and personally. I also am part of the LGBT community, so I understand, representation and how it's quite easy to be shut out of things, or who's going to let you in. I have close colleagues who are from the Black minority ethnic community. So, it's about speaking to people, really understanding what those challenges are, and making sure that you create an atmosphere that is open and diverse. And having someone as a leader who really understands that, who kind of lives and breathes it, then is in their bones. Because power sharing is not always an easy thing for people who have power. Some people get nervous, some people don't understand why they should share power. So I think having a leader that truly understands what power sharing means and looks like is leading your music board and your organization?
In terms of that idea of diversity, I completely understand embodying the notion of what the city stands for and making any organisation that represents the people to look like the people. But just picking up on a nuance within that, within the music sector, there's traditionally been accusations, probably because of the fact that it's been completely commercially driven, especially in this part of the world for such a long time, that any kind of move or any kind of mechanism reflects the established ideas, reflects the long-standing key players in the sector, reflects the big voices, doesn't reflect your independent venue owner, doesn't reflect your startup kind of emerging artist, doesn't reflect the people who are at that granular grassroots level. It affects the established voices. How do you make sure in London that isn't the case?
So how do we make sure that,
the bigger organisations are the ones setting the agenda?
Yes. So, we had a brilliant breakfast this morning with PRS Foundation, who are doing amazing work. We work very closely with UK Music, and I know that they have a very robust diversity strategy. It's just about keeping this on the agenda constantly. There's no one answer to how to achieve this, but I think, say, the work that Key Change is doing through the PRS Foundation, the diversity work that UK Music is doing, the work that we're doing at London Music Board, constantly putting it on the agenda means that eventually the people that are in power will listen and understand why change is needed. And, we're talking about not just gender diversity, but we're talking about diversity across the board.
Okay. So taking that forward to Natalie and to Youssef, Natalie, UK Music have obviously been very involved in establishing and cementing the idea of a board as a structure. Are there any ideas that you've got as to kind of how that idea of everyone having a collective voice can be represented within the structure of a music board?
I think it's the case that whoever the members of that board are need to ensure that they have connections with the local community, because that's how it works. To be able to represent, you need to have tie-in, buy-in, and understanding. And if that communication or dialogue doesn't exist, then that's where the mechanism would break down. As Amy had said, on the board, specifically in London, it consists of artists, people from the creative sector, local authorities who work maybe necessarily at grassroots level, but also more at a senior level. You have publishers, producers, the works across the board that are represented. So whoever is on there needs to be appointed, but has an understanding of what's going on. So it can't just be the most successful producer that sits in Liverpool that sits on that board. No, it would need to be someone who's here, who understands what's going on and reflects the people that are who are in Liverpool, the region.
And that's a really good point, Natalie, because it'd be quite easy to have a London Music Board that is just full of CEOs of all the major record labels.
Absolutely.
But that isn't what we're about. And that is why we have a couple of CEOs, but we balance that out with grassroots artists, and we balance that out with, independent music representatives. And so everyone feels as if their voice is heard more equally, rather than in the past where it was just a set number of CEOs that all looked very similar age, similar color, similar gender, and that was the prevailing conversation lead. I think that this also, like you say, it does come down to leadership. And, I think, you're very privileged here in Liverpool to have the strong leadership and to have this, on the agenda. And I'm sure this is something that Steve takes very seriously and will ensure that happens here in Liverpool.
It's very interesting listening to all you guys, of course. I'm proportionately part of the audience here, listening to all what you guys have got to say. From my perspective, what's really interesting is maybe Liverpool is very much independent and less from a CEO base. So the opportunity to get people like myself who are independent involved in this, not looking for there is a lot more grassroots opportunity already, people looking to get on that ladder, essentially. So I think the energy and the appetite to get involved would be big in the city.
Definitely, and I think, the work that we've done over the last 12 months, which I know you've been a key part of, Youssef, has demonstrated that there's a sector there and an audience and a vibrant cross-section of people who desperately want to be part of this conversation. And, we're not short of passionate, voices, informed voices, who can help shape that agenda. It's just working out how we create a mechanism that can allow those voices to be heard and to set that agenda in partnership with the big music organisations that are key voices in the city. I just wanted to pick out a couple of observations. One, I suppose, around finance, around the economy, and around the impact. The report the Liverpool City Council commissioned last year, which was produced by BOP, had an observation that Liverpool's music economy is increasing in scale and significance. The core music sector generates over £100 million in turnover each year and employs 2,330 people. Critical to its success is a vibrant festivals and live music offer, which is worth over £48 million per annum. Add on top of that £98 million worth of Beatles revenue, it's an important sector. I just want to pick up on that idea of live venues. I know this is a conversation which is happening internationally in cities around the world, but it's highlighted there how important and how unique our live offer is in Liverpool. The work that we've done and has been consistently backed up across the other 4 reports that have been published this year is that the pressures on live music, venue closures, issues around planning, noise, developer power, agent of change, all these issues are the principal key challenge. So it's essentially our greatest strength, also our current kind of, most kind of like open weakness. If you look at that, I mean, it's really telling to be in a position where our live offers our greatest asset, but it's the thing which is facing so much pressure. Natalie, in the work that you've done with UK Music on the report that you produced, I know that the idea that Liverpool's live sector was disproportionately strong compared to other cities. How does it actually compare nationally, and how much of a kind of a key point is it?
I think nationally, I think Liverpool City as a region, I think it brings in 135 million in tourism spend, and that's just what people actually spend. So that's what it brings to the entire economic community, whether it be active and indirect spend. So that's with people who will come in, buy a ticket, but also will go to a hotel and will spend money in a hotel and also go to a bar and drink out at a bar and also go clubbing and do various different things. So even though the fact that the music is the key driver that brings people here, the rest of the economy benefits from those people coming into town. And you guys host so much stuff here that, everyone's renowned for coming here. So, Liverpool sets a map on the world and in the UK. With regards to actual finances, it probably represents, I think, just between about 2 to 3% of what the whole UK is with regards to actually consumer spend. But then if you look at the regions outside of that, you've got Wirral, you've got St Helens. I mean, their box office numbers alone are just over 1 million. Yeah. And, even when you look at, I think, Sefton as well, I think the numbers kind of are just below 1 million. So if you see you've got those regions outside that have the potential that are still doing well, there's so much more that can be done. And once that music board is established, all the issues that have been experienced with the grassroots venues and the fact that those places are dropping off, you've got nowhere for your new talent that's coming through to go and actually perform, and they're your future that's going to continue to promote people coming to the city. And that's the whole idea, is that the purpose of the board will be there to support any of the issues that come up, nip them in the bud, and ensure that if there's a whole load of issues with regards to agent for change or planning or redevelopment or gentrification that's taken place, it's going to end up impacting the industry and that tourism that brings that money to your economy, it's something that needs to be looked in. And that's what that board is going to do to support.
Yeah. Just specifically around agent of change and the impact of the venue closures and the pressures on the live sector in the city. Steve, I know that without us getting into kind of granular issues around kind of local politics, the governance of planning within the city centre doesn't currently obviously sit within the city region, within your remit. But how do you see the music board having a key role in terms of setting key kind of directives around how agent of change is adopted in the city centre? Though obviously that's a city region issue, it's in keenest focused in the city centre.
It is, and as part of the devolution agreement that we signed with government in 2015, November 2015, we have to produce a spatial strategy. So we're in the process of recruiting to do that. We'll do it by 2020. And that's why the music board is so important, because that needs to feed into this. Because I think the days of looking at individual occupational areas in silos is gone. So you can't look at housing in isolation. It hits everything else around mental health and a whole host of different things and jobs and training. And the same with music. So we're just constantly looking at what music can do. And as Natalie just highlighted there, even in the visitor economy, music is a major catalyst for wider economic growth. So spatial planning will be our responsibility, and as part of that, we'll ensure that it's built in. But we're also putting our money where our mouth is, because St Helens was mentioned, Wirral was mentioned. Well, this year, we're 1% of the money that we get from government, we're top slicing, and we're having 1% for arts and culture, which includes, obviously, the music sector. So we are going to use that seed corn funding to get a multiplier effect, so we can act as a catalyst for the indigenous culture within both of those areas, but elsewhere. So we've borrowed a scheme from Sadiq, and we're having a Borough of Culture, and this year St Helens, alongside the celebration of 10 years since we were European Capital of Culture in Liverpool, but St Helens are also getting money from the Combined Authority to celebrate what's happening in St Helens, 150 years old St Helens. And next year, there was a blatant clue in what I've said, but we'll announce another borough, and they will get the same money, and they'll be able to do the same. So we can use that music board to influence the spend of our own money.
So is that 1% then dedicated to that specific borough for that 12 months? Or is there a proportion of that 1% which we can look to facilitate and use for music specifically?
Oh no, this is on top of everything else. So for instance, in Liverpool this year, we're spending £5 million on a cultural programme, and some of that will be a music cultural programme. And
through Culture Liverpool?
That's just for Liverpool. That's this year.
Through Culture Liverpool?
Yeah, it's coming through Culture Liverpool. And obviously what we'll do is we'll look at what we can do next year when the Borough of Culture for 2019 is announced, and the same in 2020. But it'll give a focus for 12 months on somewhere outside of Liverpool, as well as always having Liverpool as the driver for economic change.
Which is great, but still Liverpool city centre will maintain that state. I mean, as a proud Wirral boy who lives in New Brighton and, is absolutely bricking it ahead of Tranmere's game against Ebbsfleet tomorrow, I completely get that and understand that's vitally important, but the city centre is the heart and soul, and if our live music economy in the city centre is not in a position where it can flourish, then that's going to have a huge dramatic impact on every other part of the city region as well.
No, you're spot on. So what we need to do is, first of all, we need to get people to come to Liverpool, because that's the attack brand. So they don't really know where the Wirral is, to tell you the truth. And when you go abroad, I bet you don't say, I'm from Wirral. And when people look quizzically at you, you'll say, Wirral, it's by Liverpool. And that's what we all do. So get people to come here, but then get them to stay longer and to visit other areas. And that means that we have to put something that's attractive in the Wirral, for instance, on for them. And you saw what happened at the Tranmere at the stadium when Jeremy Corbyn.
He was the highlight. It's a shame we couldn't book him again this year and had to cancel it, but never mind. So, if I can just ask Youssef, as someone who's ingrained within the musical history of the city, you have been over the last 20 years, what would you like to see a music board achieve?
All the things that Amy's been highlighting, I've been absorbing, as you can see intently, I'm literally staring at every single word. So I would definitely take an example for what Amy said. I think collectively speaking, just a little bit more forward thinking rather than kind of holding back and looking towards nostalgia and what the city's achieved in its past. Because even similarly, I'm not a big footy fan, but with what Liverpool tends to do, the football club, they always look what we did, rather than going forward. And I'm always about going forward and now and progress. And I think for me, that's the most important place to start.
Definitely. Steve, before I bring Amy and Natalie in, were there any personal kind of ambitions around the music board that you would personally like to see achieved?
Yeah, I'd like to see some events come from it, some ideas come from it, that we can attract people into the city region. I'd like to see people working much more collaboratively. I'd like to see some ideas come out where we can go and bid along with our partners in UK Music and everybody else, but bid into DCMS to try and get some things. We've got a really, really ambitious proposal. I'm not telling you here today what that might be, but it's hugely significant, and we think probably we're tens, if not hundreds of millions of pounds to the Liverpool City region economy. So there's a whole host of different things, but look, I think we can look at what everybody's done, and we can look at all the reports and the strategies and everything else. I think we just need to get on with some stuff now.
Amy, but practically within the London Music Board, how do you identify those priorities and create that agenda of the way you're going to take forward?
Well, the Music Board, as I said, was really founded out of crisis, out of losing our grassroots live music venues. And so we had a very important issue that we had to deal with and find a solution to. And we're just now seeing some of the positive results of that. And it's taken, 2 years, really, to kind of get, from knowing that we were losing 35% of our grassroots live music venues, to forming the Music Board, to working out a strategy, to actually implementing it, to actually seeing some positive results. So this stuff does take a long time. You've got to start, and you've got to start as you mean to go on. I'd say using the data that you've got is very important. I've found over and over again that if, when I say London has lost 35% of its grassroots live music venues, it's really shocking. We know that. It's a fact. So when you have those facts, then you can start to work with your boroughs, you can start to work with all of the, the players, the communities to find a solution to this. Now that that strand of our work is still ongoing, because once you take your eye off the ball, you start losing venues, and we're certainly not in a place where we're seeing an enormous amount of growth, but we're seeing it kind of staying the same. We're not losing venues, which is really important. But we've also, alongside of that, kind of similar to what Steve is saying, is about events and creating opportunities for artists, for creatives, to actually shout about how brilliant London is for music. Not just our music heritage, but also music looking future. And we're really wanting to future-proof London. That's why one of the projects we've been working on is called Sounds Like London. And this is a month-long campaign to champion London's grassroots music scene. So this is about creating a resilience within the music community to say, right, we're going to put on a big music event. It's for the whole month of June this year. What are we going to focus on? Are we going to focus on those big, venues that everybody knows and loves, that people come from all over the country and indeed all over the world for? Or are we going to focus on the place that really needs our help, really needs our input, really needs our money and our passion? And that is what we've done. So we're leading this in partnership with the industry. And this is really to reassert London's position as a music city and encouraging Londoners and visitors. Like Steve says, it's like really important that we attract visitors to our city like it is for you here in Liverpool, because as you said, Natalie, it's like somebody comes to a gig, then they're spending money in a bar and they're going out for a meal and they're staying in a hotel and they're doing a bit of shopping. When music is the driving force for that, it's a huge economic driver for our city, and it's not really given the credit that it should be getting. Certainly in a city like Liverpool, where you have such an incredible music heritage. But if I were to give you one word of advice, it would be to future-proof that and to really look towards the future. Because everyone loves the music that has come out of Liverpool, but we want to love the music that's coming out of Liverpool now.
Absolutely, we couldn't agree any more. We've got a couple of minutes left before we have to finish. I will take one or two questions if there's any out there before we've got 1 minute. No, we've got 1 minute. So if you've got any questions, we're doing a round table just through in the other room immediately after this panel. I'd just like to take some closing reflections really from the panel. 10 seconds each. What is the prize? If we get this right, what is the prize? What are we working towards? Steve?
The prize is that we become the focus in the UK outside of London, but the industry can really start to flourish again. We've got a fantastic historic and legacy of music in this city region. But you're right, Youssef, we need to be looking at the future just the same as we are in football. By the way, we're not talking about Liverpool in the past, we're talking about the 26th. And see what comes in May. And the last thing is that everything that we do, and this is what Natalie was saying, it will be an evidence-based approach. We're going with all of our cards quite clearly marked in regard to any bids that we put forward to UK government.
Well, just to reiterate what I did say about Liverpool future-proofing itself and creating the kind of heritage of the future, in a way. I would love to see people coming to Liverpool, artists coming to Liverpool to record their album, just to soak up the atmosphere, you know, to have a world-class recording studio here where artists would feel like, I'm going to record my album in the city where the Beatles walk the streets and where all of these great young bands are coming out of, and having a flourishing, thriving music scene, but also working alongside the politicians who have the will to make that happen. I think you're in an incredibly exciting place as a city, and I just hope that, you know, our two cities, London and Liverpool, can work closely together because we are stronger together.
I think from my perspective, it's the opportunity for artist development across the entire region, economic growth for everybody, and also I think identifying, as reflecting what Amy said, that Liverpool as a region can actually become a music hub that's recognised internationally. You know, you've got, everyone knows in the US, you've got Nashville, you've got all these key places that people go for music. You want Liverpool to be on that level, so everyone recognises Liverpool, the Beatles, you want to make it more than that. I think it has the potential to do that, and that will be a really, really key prize.
Absolutely. You know, just echo what everyone said. And I think similarly with the film industry, Liverpool's being used because of the economic advantages. Maybe that's something that could be used for the music industry too. But a lot of amazing albums have been made in Liverpool recently, just so you know. But nevertheless, I think the future is positive.
Okay, I just want to very quickly say thank you very much to our panellists. We have a huge round of applause. Have a great day, have a great weekend, and see you soon.